Guys, guess what day it is today? It's March 17th, 2021. And that marks 1 year since I sat myself right here. Okay, I was facing the other way, but I sat myself right down at this table and started recording videos again. And yeah, what a year this has been. I mean, so much has changed, so much is different. I mean, even though we were at the beginning of the first lockdown, I don't think any of us realised the actual reality, the gravity of that situation. And now, 1 year later, well, we're seeing the light at the end of that tunnel. I think that it's been a very, very difficult year for all of us out there. And I mean what I say at the end of every video. Like, this isn't just a way for me to end it. I really do hope that everyone is as happy and healthy out there as they can possibly be. And I really do mean it. And I've seen this as well in the last year, the pulling together and really taking care of ourselves and then taking care of each other is essential for us being able to get through situations like this. And I'm really hoping that you could grasp some semblance of positivity. I think it could be found out there when we looked for it, when we didn't just look at the negative stuff. The positive aspects of how really we grouped together and how we took care of each other and how we took care of the community. I think that was something very, very positive that came out of this shit show of what could be considered 2020. And a huge part of that positivity is you guys out there. It's meant so much to me to re-engage with the community that I'd stepped away for a while, but to re-engage with that community, to meet the new people that were coming into this community, to have the conversations that we've had, to have the opportunities that those have allowed, that has been essential just for keeping me on the straight and narrow, for keeping me sane. When I was sitting down to plan this video, to think about this video, to think about what I was going to say about the last year, yeah, so much has happened to me personally, so much has happened to me professionally. I don't really know where to start. And it certainly wouldn't be a short, succinct video, a short, succinct catch-up that I was hoping it would be. So instead of reflecting on the last year, instead of diving back into that, because honestly, like, all of that info is there. You can see exactly what I was doing over the last year. You just have to go back through the videos. That sounds a little bit like I'm milking you for the views there, but if you're curious, you can reach out in the comments below for sure. You can ask, or just have a look through the videos. You can see what I've been up to, the projects that I've had, and just the topics that I've been like touching on or diving into deeper. But all that stuff's there. What I am missing though, I think, is a little bit of a personal history, going back to why I'm actually sitting right here talking to you, and why I've been talking to you over the last year, or longer than that actually, if you're one of the original subscribers to the channel. But why I've been talking to you about denim and why I've been chewing your ear off about that. So we're going to look at the piece that brought me into this world of raw denim, what brought me into this world of menswear. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the background of that and the story about how we got here. And so, well, let's just dive into it, because I'm going to show you this. This is my very first piece of raw Selvedge denim. It's an EVISU jacket that I found in a TK Maxx here in Berlin. What's really weird to me is that looking back to the time like just before I got this jacket, I had zero interest in fashion, zero interest in menswear or in men's style, or even I didn't even know that the fashion industry was a particular entity that one could be part of. And considering how much that this interest, this passion, and that this career path has defined for me over the last decade or 9 years, considering how much that's defined me and defined my lifestyle and defined the path that I'm on, it's really strange to think that it is just one piece, one lucky find that has defined so much of where I am and what I am today. Okay, I'm getting far too sentimental here. Let's just jump into the story. Right, you know that stereotype that Scottish people love a bargain? Well, it's a stereotype for a reason, because we really, really love a bargain. And that means that TK Maxx's and other bargain outlets are really like, yeah, it's like bees to honey. So I'm in there, I'm rifling through all the racks, and you know, it's like If you've ever been to TK Maxx, you can see the professionals there. You can see the ones that really know what they're about, because they're there. They're just like, there's elbows out in the mosh pit. They're just on the stands, and you hear this like click, 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 as we just like go through, like just like sweeping past all of the junk that's on the rails until we find that one piece of gold. So I'm there. I'm rifling through. I'm an Olympian at this, and it's just like junk after junk after junk after junk. And all of a sudden, like, I put my hand on this one piece. I don't even remember really looking at it, but it was the texture, it was the feeling of it. And then when I did glance at it properly, it just looked different. It was something completely other than everything else that was on the rack. It was this jacket here. And I'd never seen denim like this. Before that, we were coming out of the noughties, and that had been defined by pretty shit denim. At least for me, it had been defined by what I know now as being really shit denim. So really, really heavily washed down, cheaply produced, and bad cuts, bad fits. And so when I put my hand on this, even though looking at it now with the perspective of with my perspective now, it's not particularly special. I don't think the denim's particularly special either. But it was certainly like a breed apart from everything else that was hanging on the TK Maxx rails at that time. And I did recognize the logo. I recognized the brand name. But I had pretty negative associations with it. EVISU had made its way up to Scotland at some point during the noughties. But it'd been so watered down by this time, and so wasn't even overhyped, can't say that, but none of the importance, none of the really interesting facts about EVISU, about the brand, about Japanese denim, about raw denim, actually carried all the way up to Scotland during the 2000s. Quite frankly, it was a brand for the Neds. It was found copied, it was rip-offs of EVISU were found at all the really, really cheap markets, and so yeah, that's why I had this bad association with it. But then I saw this and I thought there must be something different. There must be something that I'm missing here. And so I took it, I tried it on. In fact, I think this is a medium. I tried on a large, and the large was too big for me, which I regret now because I was much skinnier back then, and this doesn't fit me too well anymore. But I tried it on, hummed and had about it a long time, because it was 80 euros. And 80 euros for a TK Maxx find is a lot of money. It was a lot of money for me back then. And also, I didn't have that perspective on the value of clothing and what they can bring. I didn't have the perspective on the true cost of clothing. That's only something that I've educated myself on and been educated on over the last 10 years. But back to the TK Maxx. So I'm standing there with this denim jacket in my hand. I'm trying it on. I'm standing in front of the mirror. I'm like humming and hawing about it, really not too sure. At some point, I mean, I must have been in there for quite a long time. At some point, the girl that I was dating at the time, she joined me and she was like, yeah, sure, it's a nice jacket, but it's a little bit big for you. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's fair enough, yeah. I put it back on the rail. And I continued looking. And then a few minutes later, I came across this exact jacket here, this one. And that was one size smaller. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, okay, this is meant to be. I took it to the counter, put down my card. It's like, okay, yeah, this is my jacket now. And I still have 14 days to return it. But there was no way I was going to return it. By the time I'd left the shop, that was my jacket. Something about it just fascinated me. So I got it home, and I have no idea why I didn't do this right away. But anyway, sometime later on that night, I'm sitting in bed, and instead of reading my book, I'm reading the hang tags that came in the jacket. And I've got the jacket there, and I'm poring over all the little details. Because, as I said, I was just fascinated by this piece. And yeah, so some of the hang tags talked about EVISU as the brand. And remember, this is the European EVISU. This is not the Japanese EVISU. Those are two separate companies. And they do quite separate things. And so the advertising blurb, the marketing blurb was actually kind of cringeworthy. So I was like, yeah, okay, yeah. And then there was a little warning label that there's going to be color transfer, so I had to be careful on my white couch. And then there was another one that talked about raw denim, that talked about Selvedge denim. And that is what caught me. I mean, as much as the jacket itself, with all its details, with this new thing of what it really is denim compared to what I thought was denim before, it was this idea that a garment could start off the same as every other garment out there, and then through time and through wear, it was going to become unique to you and yours alone. That was something that was a brand new concept for me at the time. And it was certainly something that I strongly identified with after I had left the UK and after I'd left the career path, which was in product design, after I'd left that career path that I was in before. Here was this product that was a consumer product. It was a fashion product, which at that time was the height of consumerism. And I think, actually no, probably now it's even more of the height of consumerism. But there was this product that was a contradiction in itself. I mean, the very fact that you have one item, one denim item that you wear for the longest time possible, and it gets better over that time. That contradiction, that was very, very interesting. And that's something that I think more than anything really caught me. Because it was only later that I found out anything about the actual production of this stuff, about the history behind this stuff, about the narrative that is built into each product before they're even made. And that's not even talking about the narrative that people build into their own jeans. All of that stuff would come to me later, and that understanding would come to me later. But this contradiction in a product, that was the first thing that I think really sparked my interest in it. And then after that, it was just a blur of me diving into the denim community. The denim community at that time was very based around a couple of the bigger blogs. One of them was Denim Hunters, which I would end up partnering up with Thomas Boyer, the founder. Another one was Raw Denim, which is now Heddles. And the rest of the information out there was based very much around the forums, which I didn't really mess with for very long, to be honest. I found those to be a very toxic environment. And I think that's why the blogosphere is the one that's actually sort of risen to the top, and why the forums have kind of died a death. I mean, I suppose you could say that they evolved into Reddit, or Reddit's the new forum for this. I still find that a very toxic environment, but I won't dive too deep into that. What I will dive into right now is the details of this jacket. It's an interesting piece, especially seen in the context of what EVISU worldwide, I think that's what it's called. There's EVISU Japan, and there's EVISU Europe, or worldwide. Whatever EVISU is that's not directly EVISU Japan, they're two separate companies. But this is quite a restrained product considering what they were producing at the time, and even more so what they're producing today. And it's also very clear that somebody who knows their denim and loves the classics in denim, they've had a lot to do with designing and with producing this jacket. With this, they've done what a lot of brands really took a long time to do. You know, a lot of brands, they were making repro pieces, and it was only later on that they were like, okay, maybe not everybody likes an exact repro jacket from the 1950s. Maybe we need to take the design cues and we need to modernize it. We need to have a slimmer silhouette, we need a slightly longer body. And yeah, this is, because I don't have the context of the time, I've only got my impressions of the time. But this feels like it's a little bit ahead of its time. So we've got the cue from the Type 1, which is kind of, I don't know if ironic or moronic or whatever, but it's actually called the Type 2. But the main design cues for this jacket will be the Type 1. So we've got the pleats going down the front, it's a button closure, and we've got the single pocket. But what they've done here is that they put the single pocket on the inside, making it, I don't know if this is to make it, come on, focus. I mean, I don't know if this is an intentional modernization, if it's just a design trick, but they've taken the external pocket that was always on the Type 1, and they've put it on the inside, but they've also defined the pocket on the outside, which is where the arc is as well. They defined that with the contrast stitching. But then the contrast stitching is rolled out in a very traditional way. It's got it's two tones of contrast stitching that work extremely well together. I wouldn't really say it's that sort of lemon and tobacco, it's more sort of two tones of tobacco. And then there's tonal stitching that pick out the pleats down the front as well, sort of this square box here that's done in, it's an indigo tonal stitching. And it works extremely well with how this looks. It's not overt, but it is still, it's more than a nod to the traditional jackets. But then over on the back, they reach to the Type 3, where we've got the waist adjusters here, which are button waist adjusters. It's not that cinch at the back. And also down at the waistband is the only place that you actually find selvage on the whole jacket, which it does make me a little bit suspicious, but anyway. It's a red, like a solid red Selvedge ID that runs all the way around the waistband. Quite why it's done like that, I really don't know, but I do like it. I think it's a nice punctuation point at the bottom of the jacket. And as much as I'm not a particular fan of selvage details on clothing, this one really works. It's like just a punctuation at the bottom. With the woven label here, they lean into this Japanese thing pretty heavily. I mean, it's very nicely done. It's very, very good quality, but it gives the impression that it's from Osaka, Japan, until you look at the patch where there's the woven label underneath that, clearly stating made in China. But it's made in China by people who really clearly know exactly what they're doing. The denim itself is absolutely fantastic. I guess it's a medium weight, around about the 13, 14 ounces. It's got a nice soft hand to it. It did have a really, really deep indigo color, and that's the thing that really caught my attention. As you can see, I mean, it's not really been all that worn, because I started wearing it. You can see some wear on it, but then I got a little bit snobby and was just like, I don't only want things that are made in America or made in Japan. This is made in China. I'm going to move on now. And I think I moved on to an Edwin Flathead jacket after that. I even considered selling this jacket at some point, and I'm really super glad that I didn't. But aside from the denim, where I've got absolutely no clue of the origin of the denim, it could be from Japan, could have been woven in China, no idea. But aside from that, like, clearly somebody who really knew what they're doing put together this jacket. All of the seams, yeah, they're overlocked, that's totally fine, totally normal, but they're all done extremely well, and the construction is very, very clean. In fact, one of the cleanest constructions that I've seen in any of my denim items. And this quality, it continues to the hardware. The buttons are solid, they're very well placed, even after a decade of, yeah, okay, I didn't wear it that much, but even after this long, the buttons are still looking great. They're starting to patina up a little bit on the back, because I wear a backpack all the time. And yeah, the sort of underlying brass is showing through. It makes me think that I should wear this a little bit more often. I think this is going to patina up really, really nicely, and the denim's going to fade down super nice as well. The only thing that I'd say I have a slight issue with, as I mentioned before, is the leather patch. I'm not too sure if it really is leather, but I find it very, very hard to tell these days. What I really look for in a leather patch is something that's going to patina, something that's going to wear. That's why I like veg tan leather for leather patches, or I like the cardboard patch, because that really flakes off and it wears super, super nice. It gets some character along with it, and it develops. Whereas these more shiny labels, just like this one, I feel that they don't develop any character. They don't really add to the age and wear of the denim garment. But that's really the only bug that I've got with this jacket. And then we've got the all-important, the essential for EVISU, the painted arc, the seagull. Now, although I'm absolutely certain that this has been done with some sort of stencil, it's still been painted on with a brush, and they've made a very, very nice job of it. It's been painted on with a different paint they used to paint the gulls on in the EVISU store in Tokyo. Oh, give me a second. Okay. Here is my genuine EVISU Type 1, my genuine, can you even say that? This is the Type 1 EVISU that I got when I was in Tokyo, Japan. I actually went to the EVISU flagship store, and they painted on this arc for me. It is at a different level, and it uses slightly different paint as well. To be honest, I think they just used like furniture paint. I mean, I was expecting them to come out with sort of, I don't know, the blessed water and the blessed paint, and then the long brush that's this long and they paint like this. No, it looked like a tin of house paint, and they sat there with a very unceremonious brush and painted on, but it still was amazing to see that. And that paint has actually developed, and much, much faster, developed a more interesting patina, a more interesting fade than this one. This one has cracked and is really started to flake a little bit. This one looks as new as the day I got it. But yeah, the story behind this jacket is a story for another time. It's this jacket that we're concentrating on. So even though from a denim head standpoint, from a denim head's point of view, this is not the most special jacket in my collection. It's maybe not the best constructed. It's not got the most interesting denim. It doesn't have that sort of heritage behind it. But it's still the reason that I am sat here right now speaking to you guys. And for that reason, it is probably, not I would say it's definitely the most important piece in my whole denim collection. And I would go as far to say, and this sounds very sentimental right now, but I'd go as far to say it's one of the most important things that I've ever purchased, that I've ever brought into my life. And so that's why today I wanted to tell a little bit of its story, a little bit about the background that brought me into denim, about what shaped the last decade of my life. And yeah, okay, people like on anniversaries, they do get a little bit sort of nostalgic and sentimental. And so I hope you don't mind me just sharing this little sort of nugget of my past with you. There's probably a few of you out there that are thinking right now like, okay, that's fine, that's very interesting. Show us how the fucking thing fits. I'm going to, and I will. But as I said, I was 20 kilos skinnier when I bought this, so it might look a little bit ridiculous, but let's see. And also, denim jacket on a denim shirt doesn't really work. Should have planned this a little bit better, like always. But I need to go and put a t-shirt on. And it's pretty obvious I've not done any ironing for a while either, so you're gonna have to forgive that as well. Let's see how skinny I really used to be. Okay, actually, like, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Yeah, that's really okay if I don't mind not breathing or don't have to tie my shoes or anything like that. That's really not too bad. Now you guys see here how it's a little bit longer in the body, and I mean I'll quickly compare it with the traditional Type 1. Yeah, here we've got this will be a much more sort of traditional like repro version of the Type 1, even though they've gotten as far as putting the arcs on it. But yeah, it sits like just above the belt line for me. So yeah, this one's actually, as I said, a bit more practical. Okay, I just reviewed the footage on that, and yeah, even it's too tight. Yeah, it belongs to a different type. It belongs to a different mat, a mat that was 72 kilos and not 92. But it still has that special place in my heart, and it always will, because you never forget your first. And guys, thank you so much for joining me on this little trip down memory lane. And for all of you that have supported me right from the beginning, subscribing right from the beginning, when was that, like 2016, to all of you guys that jumped on board in the last year, just to all of you, really thank you so much for all the help, all the support, all the kind words. You've got no idea how much that means to me, and how much that's helped me over what was a pretty difficult year for all of us. So I mean this when I say that I hope everyone is happy and healthy out there. I hope you're taking care of yourselves. I hope you're taking care of each other. And I'm going to see you in the next video.